Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is our regular Saturday lecture, and today we are happy and glad to welcome our guest, Erika. So, students often ask us about how to make the applications stand out among the pile of applications that US colleges and universities receive. And there is no better way to find out that directly from an admissions officer. So, today, Erika will share with us all the insight information. And thank you, Erika, for joining. The floor is yours.
All right, wonderful. Hi, everybody. My name is Erika Castillo, and I am the Associate Director of Admissions and Multicultural Outreach at Quinnipiac University, which is located in the beautiful state of Connecticut. Connecticut is south of Massachusetts and right next to New York. So we're about 2 hours away from New York City and 2 hours away from Boston, kind of right in the middle of both of those major cities in the city of Hamden, Connecticut. Today, we are going to be talking about College Admissions 101. So you are all probably attending this presentation because you maybe have an interest in studying in the United States. So I'm going to just give an overview of what most colleges and universities in the United States are going to be looking for in the admissions process. And I'm also going to give a breakdown of the documents that you can and should begin preparing if you are looking to study in the United States. So without further ado, we'll get started with our presentation. Okay, so again, this presentation is called College Admissions 101, and it's presented by me, Erika Castillo, and I'm at Quinnipiac University. Okay. So before we get started on the types of documents that you should begin preparing, I will share with you that most colleges and universities in the United States have adopted what is referred to as a holistic approach to university admissions. So that approach is based on looking at the student as a whole person. So we're not only looking at a student's academic performance, we're also looking at all the different things that a student can bring into a classroom or into a campus environment. So what types of documents do we look at? We're looking at your letters of recommendation. We are looking at which sports or clubs or volunteer activities that you're doing in your home country. What are you involved with? Are you studying any research? Are there things in your life that are going to add additional value to university life that go beyond just test and doing assignments in the classroom, right? So that is holistic admissions. And the purpose of that really is to curate a class for your campus. So the whole purpose of admissions is us looking at individual students to see if they're going to be successful on our campus and to make sure that they're going to add more to the campus experience. International students have an innate ability to do this because they're bringing their culture. Oftentimes they bring their culture with them, they bring their language with them, they bring their food with them, and they share that with other people on the campus, with American students, and they come with this natural interest that I think adds value to campuses all over the United States. So the first document, and last month I was so honored to participate with EducationUSA Ukraine to host an essay boot camp. And I worked with students to basically discuss what are the best ways to frame your essays and to work with students to decide what they wanted to write about in their college essays. So this is a very common document that most colleges and universities are going to ask for. It's just a statement. So between 250 to 600 words, more or less, is what most colleges and universities look for. That's what the requirement is for the Common App, the Common Application. And that is a way that a lot of international students will apply for different colleges and universities in the US. And it's basically the one document in the whole application that is written in the student's voice and that is expressing some level of interest that the student would like to share with the admissions team in making their consideration for admission. So last month we talked about how the range of subjects that a student can write about for their personal statement is really quite broad, and every school is different. So depending on which school you are applying for, you certainly want to go onto their website and take a look at what essay prompts they have available. Once you have your essay prompt, then you can make your decisions about what you would like to write about. Oftentimes these essay prompts are a little more open-ended, they're a little more broad, but generally speaking, they typically want to know more about you as a person. They just want to know what you're interested in, what you're passionate about, and if you have an interest in any particular research, the personal statement is a very good place to talk about that interest. Okay. So this is very common. Don't put too much thought into it. It's just the one space where you can be authentic to your experience as a person coming to study in the United States. Okay. Next up, we have letters of recommendation. So some universities will ask for this. Some universities may not. It really depends on the school. I do find that the majority of colleges and universities will ask for maybe at least one. So it's important to identify your references and to let them know in advance that you're thinking about going to study in the United States. In the case of Ukraine, I imagine that maybe your references speak Ukrainian, right? So they agree, yes, I will write you a letter of recommendation, but I don't speak English. That is okay. Okay, so basically what you would do in that situation, the person would write their letter of recommendation for you, and then you can have it translated. At Quinnipiac University, we take any kind of translation. You can translate it yourself. You can bring it to any translation service or company in Ukraine and have it translated that way, and you can submit it directly through your applicant portal online. Many universities in the United States use a service that is called Slate, and it is a software that is built for college admissions by college admissions professionals, which is really wonderful. It has made great strides over the past decade at least, probably more than that, definitely more than that. But anyway, so if your application is through Slate, not that you would know it, but you'll have access to an applicant portal. So after you submit your application and you're sending in your documents, most universities will make it very easy for you to just go into your applicant portal online and upload your documents. So once you have your final letter of recommendation in English, then you can go ahead online and just upload it. A lot of universities will also accept documents by email. So if you're having trouble, if you don't know, how do I send this? You can just email the admissions office at whatever institution you're applying for, and they'll be able to assist you with adding that document to your application, okay? So for your letters of recommendation, some types of people that you might want to consider are teachers, coaches, right? It could be an academic coach, somebody that helps you with mentoring or with tutoring, or it can be a sports coach, or it can be a music coach. There's many different types of people that could be in your life that would be able to speak not only to how well you perform academically or what your skills are in your areas of interest, but also they can speak to your character and to your personality, right? And share with university admissions, why they think that you would be a good candidate to study in the United States. Some other options for recommenders or people that you can choose to refer you are definitely going to be, I think I said teachers already. Um, let's see, you don't want to do family. I'll tell you that, right? We don't want a letter of recommendation from your mother or from your father or grandfather, okay? I have had some students do this because, for example, they work for their father's company. And so my father is my father, but he's also my boss. Even still, we'd like to see a recommendation from a colleague, maybe somebody that works alongside of you or somebody else that you report to. It is not wise to submit a letter of recommendation from a family member. So you definitely want to make sure that it's somebody that has that's able to give an unbiased perspective on who you are as a person and what you could bring to a university campus. Okay. Next up, we have your academic transcript. This is, of course, one of the most important documents that is in the admissions packet, right? When you're applying for admissions. This is the way that university admissions analyze your academic ability, whether or not you'd be able to succeed on a university campus. So each university has its own degree of what's the word, like challenge. Some universities are academically more rigorous than others, and so the admissions requirements are really based on that rigor. If it's a more intensive program, the academic requirements might be higher than a program in, let's say, the liberal arts or in music, for example, psychology. These programs have a variety of admissions requirements. Most universities have their academic admissions requirements posted right on their website. So if you go to visit the admissions website for any university, there'll likely be some space on there where you can click and see what the admissions requirements are and make your own determination about whether or not you meet those requirements. And that oftentimes plays a big role in whether or not you decide to apply. So I strongly encourage for students to look at the university's website and choose a program or choose a school that you think that you also would be a good fit for. The challenge with an international student is that you don't always have the ability to visit the campus in person before you decide to go for your visa. And so these little things that you can do to make sure that the school is going to be a good fit for you and that you are going to be a good fit for the school, they really go a very long way in the end. Ultimately, you're going to have to interview for your visa. And visa interviews are typically very quick, but so you don't have a whole ton of time to explain your interest and why you're wanting to attend a certain school. So it's important that you know your school very well and that you understand why it is that you want to study that program at that institution. And a very good way of doing that is by just visiting online. Another very good way of doing that is by connecting with an admissions counselor. You can speak to somebody at the school, ask them all the questions that you might have about what the academic requirements might be for your program. The thing about doing your homework in advance is that applying for colleges in the United States takes effort. You're going to have to prepare documents. You're going to have to spend time writing, filling out the forms, asking for letters of recommendation, getting translations. It can be quite a process. So you want to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success, right? If you're going to do all this legwork to apply for a university in the United States, why not also then make sure that that you're going to be a good fit for that institution? And a good way to do that is by going on the website. Academic requirements typically look like they're typically on a 4.0 GPA scale. So sometimes you'll see, oh, you need at least a 3.0 GPA in order to be admissible into this program. There are mathematical equations, available online. I'm sure your EducationUSA advisor can help you with this as well, to kind of get your academic transcript from Ukraine into that 4.0 grading system to have a better understanding of where you stand. Another popular website to calculate GPAs is called Scholaro. There's many free resources. It's all a Google search away, right? So GPA is something we definitely look for. GPA stands for grade point average, and that's a numerical score that sums up the entire academic performance of the student and puts them on a scale, and so that the admissions representatives can understand. Some schools don't have the resources in-house to do those mathematical equations, right? Those calculations. And so therefore, they might ask for a course-by-course evaluation. A common course-by-course evaluation is from WES, W-E-S, that stands for World Education Services. Another one is ECE, Educational Credential Evaluators, Inc. There's quite a few that do a very good job with the course-by-course analysis. And so that report will also have what the equivalence is of your academic performance in Ukraine and how that translates to the United States, what the credential is, a high school diploma, an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, for example. And then it also will typically include a breakout of all the individual classes that you took, what your score was in those classes, and how that translates to the American grading system. So once you have that report, and I will say those reports typically are an additional cost, so make sure you check online in advance to make sure whether or not your college or university requires it. Oh, I'm sorry. And make sure that, there are some schools, again, that don't require it. So Quinnipiac University does not require a WES or an ECE or any course-by-course evaluation for most of our programs. For some of our more rigorous programs, for example, occupational therapy, physical therapy, nursing, these are programs that are in the health sciences that are a little more intensive. We do require a course-by-course evaluation, but not for all programs. So it's worth it then to go look up the school that you're interested in applying. Typically, those websites will also have a section that's specific for international students. And so on there, you can see whether or not it's required for you to have a course-by-course evaluation, or if you can just send a copy of your transcripts as they are. Okay, so that's something that's very important to keep in mind. If you decide to do the WES ECE or any course-by-course evaluation, there's an organization called NACES, NACES, and it escapes me what the acronym stands for, but there's a number of companies that are certified by NACES. And they all do course-by-course evaluations. So if you decide that you want to do a course-by-course evaluation, there's many universities in the United States that will accept it. So us, for example, we don't require a course-by-course evaluation for our School of Business, for example. But if a student submitted a WES evaluation, we can certainly accept that, and that is sufficient for our purposes, okay? So make sure you take a very good look at that. The last thing I want to talk about is English proficiency. So, universities will typically vary in their admissions requirements as well for demonstrating English proficiency. Some universities have resources available on their campus for students to come and learn English before they begin their studies. That is typically called a conditional admission. So that is when students will have to they can begin an academic program only under the condition that they complete and satisfy English language training before beginning the studies. So that's referred to as a conditional admission. I understand that the embassies are not admitting, they're not issuing visas as much as they used to for students with conditional admission, right? So that means that the student hasn't demonstrated English proficiency for that school. And so there's a little bit of a mix of opinions on whether or not it's a good route to go in today's climate at the embassies. But I do know that there are universities that still have English language institutes. They still have English language training programs, and they still offer these conditional admissions where students can be admitted into a program as long as they satisfy the requirements of the English language training in the United States. The other type of admission is a direct admission, and that means that the student has been admitted directly into the academic program because they have demonstrated that they can adequately speak English, right? So, what are the types of tests that you could take to demonstrate English proficiency? The TOEFL is a very common exam. The IELTS is another very common exam. Duolingo, I've seen, has been widely accepted at many schools, not all schools. So definitely make sure you take a look to see what are the English proficiency requirements at different schools. I can think of quite a few other ones, so I won't get into the laundry list of different English proficiency tests, but I think those are more or less the main tests that that universities will accept to demonstrate English proficiency. Okay. And that is it. So more or less, those are the documents that I think you should begin preparing and looking into, the tests that you should take, the things that you should do to prepare yourself for college admissions or for studying in the United States. And that's all. Again, my name is Erika Castillo, and I'm the Associate Director of Admissions. We'll turn it back over to Oksana.
Thank you so much, Erika. So, dear viewers, if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat, of course, and we'll be glad to answer them. And while we are waiting for questions from our students, I would like to ask you about transcripts and evaluation. Yes, so as far as I know, evaluation is necessary for students who are transferred, yeah? Or
yes, that is very common. Yes, for students, if you already have some college experience in Ukraine, it certainly makes it easier to have a course by course evaluation. Not all universities require it, but all universities, I shouldn't say all, most universities do accept it. And so I think it's a wise choice if it's a transfer student. Yes.
Thank you. So it's a bit clear with evaluation because you need special organization who can do it, yes, for you. But if you talk about transcripts, yes, so do we need to to look for these special organizations, or it's okay if student can prepare it by themselves?
Well, most of the time, it really depends on the school. So like I said, for Quinnipiac, I'm just using Quinnipiac as an example because this is where I am currently. Some of our programs don't require it at all. And so it's not necessary. The thing that is good about getting a course by course evaluation is that so many universities do accept them and are so familiar with them that it makes it a lot easier, certainly, to apply and to have a credential that's easily recognizable. I think that's the challenge with international admissions in any country, is trying to get this baseline understanding, right? Because the American education system is so different than, let's say, Ukraine, right? And so how do we find the common denominators for us as admissions professionals to understand how well this student is performing in their home country? It takes a lot of research. And thankfully here at Quinnipiac, we have a team of professionals that are very well versed, that are internationally very interculturally aware. And so we've all traveled a ton too. I don't believe any of us have been to Ukraine. So one day I hope to be able to visit. And anyway, but still, there's some academic resources that are available to be able to gauge and understand how this translates. So we do a lot of these evaluations in-house, but it certainly saves us some time if we have the course-by-course evaluation in hand.
Thank you so much. So we have one question from the chat from Anya. If I don't take SAT exam, will it damage my application?
That is such a good question, Anya. Thank you so much for asking, because I forgot to mention the SAT. So I will say that many colleges and universities these days are now becoming test optional. And so what that means is that you can submit it or you don't have to. It's really optional. It's based on your choice. Here at Quinnipiac, we only recommend students to submit their SAT or their ACT exam if they feel that it's a strong score. If it's going to add value to their application, if it's going to make their application more competitive, then we recommend to submit it. The average SAT score for last year's class of admitted students was in the range of 1,100 to 1,200. Right? So if you have at least an 1,100 or higher, I think most universities would consider that to be a good score. If you're applying to a program that's a little more academically rigorous, then you might want to aim more for 1,200, for example. So, and again, if the school is test optional and you don't have those scores, you do not have to submit them, and it won't have any negative bearing on the application.
Thank you so much for your answer. So, and thank you for this explanation of all these steps, like with documents, yes, with these papers. And I would like to ask you, maybe you could recommend something to our students. They are always wondering how to do this research of universities like correctly. Yes, like what should they include, what should they look for, and so on.
Yeah, that's a very good question, because I will say, a lot of international students, they come across universities in very different ways. I guess some of the most common resources that students will defer to will be their EducationUSA office. Oftentimes, EducationUSA will also host fairs where, admissions representatives will fly to the native country or to the home country, and they'll prepare a table, and students can come and speak to them live. So that's certainly a way that students get exposed to different colleges and universities. Another way is by doing a simple Google search. If, for example, you had a specific interest in a certain program, you can Google nursing programs in the United States. And, there's an algorithm there, but it's something that I think most universities are aware of, what their web presence looks like online, how they wish to stand out in a Google search. And so you can still sort of find good matches even by doing a Google search. The other thing to consider is, where in the United States do you want to study? Is your heart set on New York City? Is New York City like your dream, And so if it is, then maybe you should, you look at schools that are only in New York City. Or you can consider, California is another popular one, or Texas, Florida, Boston is another really popular one. So think about, what kind of environment do I want to be in? I know that Kyiv is a city, right? And so if that's something that you're very familiar with and you're very comfortable with, then I wouldn't recommend going to study out on a farm in Kansas. You want to find something that you think is going to be a good fit for your natural living as well. Me personally, I grew up in Bridgeport, Connecticut, which is the largest city in the state of Connecticut. And so for me, that was important in my college experience. I wanted to be in a big city, right? So consider those things. Do I want to be in a college town, or do I want to be more in a big city? um, how important is it for me to be close to certain things, like, oh, I need to be near a hospital in case of an emergency, or I need to be near restaurants so I can go out and have a good social life. These are the things that you might want to think about when you're researching different places to study in the United States. But I think it's a good start to consider which cities you might want to live in, and then do some research from there, and narrow down different institutions that might have the programs that you're interested in, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's really great. Thank you so much. So one more question, which is quite popular among our students, is financial aid and scholarships. So maybe any recommendations how they could increase their chances to get this financial aid or some scholarship?
Yes, that is also a very good question. I can't believe I failed to mention that also. Financial aid, huh? So, okay. Many colleges and universities in the United States do offer what's called academic merit scholarship. And so this is money that is allocated to students based on their academic performance, meaning that the higher your academic performance, the higher the scholarship potential, right? And so typically this is done right at the time of admission, right? Because at that point we have the application, we have all the documents, we have the academic transcript, we have a very good understanding of who this student is, and what their ability is going to be in studying as a student on campus. And so at that point, an academic merit scholarship is awarded. I've worked for several institutions, and in all cases, the academic merit scholarship comes in the admissions package. So there's usually an acceptance letter. Congratulations, you've been admitted, and we would love to offer you an academic merit scholarship of $30,000. And so again, those ranges, they vary depending on the institution. At Quinnipiac, our maximum scholarship is $28,000, right? So depending on your academic performance, you can go up to $28,000. Some other important things to consider is that there are some institutions in the United States that accept the CSS profile. The CSS profile is basically a form that you fill out that profiles your family's financial need, your financial position. And so using that profile, a lot of universities also offer additional funding to be able to determine whether or not there's a need, an additional need for more funding. And so the CSS profile is a good thing to look at as well. Quinnipiac does not require the CSS profile. We do accept it, and there are some institutional funding that can be awarded on an appeals basis, but each university is different. There are some schools that use the CSS profile and can offer up to 100% of the tuition and fees for students to study in the United States. So definitely something that is important to look at, because when you go for your visa, part of the process for securing your visa is demonstrating not only academic ability, but also financial ability to support the cost of attendance of living in the United States. And that goes beyond just your tuition. It also, encompasses your living expenses, food, and these sort of things. So having your academic awards or your financial aid award in advance is definitely helpful in going to your visa interview as well.
Thank you so much. It was really a great answer. So for now, it seems to me we don't have any more questions. But if, dear viewers, you have something to ask us about this after this presentation, you can always reach out to Education USA Ukraine, and we have a lot of resources on how to prepare transcripts, how to write essays. We have nice workshop with Erika, essay writing workshop. So you can also reach out to Education USA and we will share these resources with you. So thank you, Erika, for joining us. It was a great pleasure to meet you again and to work with you again. Thank you for this presentation and see you during our next events.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Our heart is with you guys. If there's anything else I can do to assist, you have my contact information or you can reach out to Oksana. Thank you.